having the hardships has made me, but then the emotional and mental IQ of being able to learn and accept new things is what's like fueling my journey forward.
Welcome to the Top Tier Podcast, where we take you to new heights in the world of real estate, capital raising, and business entrepreneurship. Meet your hosts, Daniela and Landon, industry experts passionate about success. Join them on the Top Tier Podcast as they share real-world experiences, practical solutions, and strategies to overcome business and real estate challenges. From expert interviews to actionable advice, they aim to inspire and empower you. Subscribe now to never miss an episode.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Top Tier with Landon and Daniela. Today we have a unique guest. Her name is Brenda Jones, and she's going to talk to us all about her multifamily journey, brick by brick. This to me was so exciting to talk about, specifically multifamily, because we haven't really dove into it before. I know nothing about multifamily, even though I'm in commercial. I focus on different asset classes, and so I'm really excited to introduce Brenda Jones.
Hey guys,
Yeah,
thanks
welcome.
for having me.
Heck yeah. So excited, super excited
Absolutely.
for this too, because, a little bit of background about you I learned is that you are still an active W-2 employee like myself, and Daniela is a former W-2 employee herself. And so, we live in that space where we love our W-2s and there's nothing wrong with them. There's a world that cohesively we can integrate our efforts and our things we're doing outside of the W-2, that security, that protection and whatnot that we love, but also pioneer some things that are of interest to us. And so I admire that so much on what you're doing. Maybe you can share with us a little bit more of kind of your background of, where you came from, of your W-2 and what you're doing there, and then how that transition kind of occurred.
Yeah, so I'm a recruiter and I've been recruiting for 18 years and
Wow.
I work for a big tech company up in the Bay Area. I'm in Southern California, but the company is in the Bay Area. I just actually hit my 6-year anniversary yesterday. And
Congrats.
thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it like everything you enjoy and happy about, right? It goes by too quickly.
Fast.
But I've been recruiting, like I said, I've been recruiting for 18 years, and a lot of people don't realize like recruiting is actually a sales job. So for the
Yeah.
first 12 years of my life, I worked at an agency at 100% commission. And just to give,
Wow.
yeah, it's crazy. And, at an agency, you have to cold call into companies and get them to pay you a fee, right, to hire for them. But then you got to cold call candidates and be like, hey, like I've got this awesome job. Like, would you want to take this job? So it's a double sell. So I did that for 12 years and obviously loved it, but it does grind on you and wear on you eventually. And I eventually moved up to the Bay, and my first tech company I worked for was Facebook, and then now I'm at my current company. And it's amazing. So I got into real estate investing a couple years ago. Well, the idea of it popped in my mind a couple years ago because me and my husband were trying to buy a house here in Southern California. I live in Orange County. And I think, Danielle, you're up in the Bay, right? So like
I am. Yeah. Hashtag California.
fucking expensive.
It's brutal.
Brutal.
It's like basically a down payment is basically worth one of your children.
Right.
Like it's horrible.
So, we start 2022 in like February and looking for houses every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, making offers,
God.
getting priced out $200,000 to $300,000. Like I never felt so poor in my life. Like I make really good money. Like if I lived in Idaho, I'd be a millionaire. But in California, I'm like, minimum wage technically. Like so, and then it went from like being able to afford a 5-bedroom home to like a 3-bedroom condo for the same price. Like we would have been house poor,
Yeah.
So we took a break. I mean, full transparency, like me and my husband were fighting because it was just like it was crazy, right? Like it's so frustrating.
It's demoralizing. It's demoralizing. And you're sitting here going like, I live in one of the highest income producing states. I have a really great job. My husband has a great job. As a family, we should be able to afford these things. We have to figure out a way to depreciate our taxes because we're getting murdered.
Yep.
And we can't even do that in our own backyard.
Yeah. It was insane.
I'm devastated. Like all these investors I meet that are like, yeah, I just bought a property 5 minutes from my house. It is so frustrating for me because I know that investment doesn't make sense for
Yeah.
me.
Not
And
in
that's
California.
super,
Yeah.
I can completely relate.
Yeah. So of course, Pace Morby magically appeared on my Instagram, and like everyone else who
You read
finds
your
this,
mind.
yeah, and like everyone else who finds Pace, right? They're automatically like drawn to him. He's got this magnetism, and then you go to his YouTube, and then you don't sleep for like 3 months. Because you're watching every video. Like a crazy person. Like, oh my God, what is he talking about? Like, he seems like the Messiah to you. So it took me about 6 months to like really like do my due diligence and like, hey, is this guy not a scam? Right? Like, can't just jump into something without making sure, I'm not gonna get myself into trouble. And, funny story, I tell my husband, like, hey, I'm like, I'm ready to join this guy's mentorship. He's like, who the fuck is this guy Pace? Like, what are you talking about? And he didn't do any of the research, right? Like, I didn't involve him with it because he didn't really care. And so I explained to him, I'm like, look,
So
like,
he thinks you're crazy now.
totally
He thinks you're
crazy,
crazy.
totally
He
crazy.
watches one video and he goes,
Yeah,
are you okay,
right. Like,
Brenda?
who is this guy? Yeah,
What's interesting too, like I think that got hidden there is that you worked so hard to try and find something in your backyard as a rental property and worked for, countless hours and days and weeks and months towards finding something. you know, People many times will just call it quits after that and be like, I
yeah,
can't do it. Real estate is too
yeah,
hard. And you didn't. You looked at that as like, okay, I need to make a pivot and change. And you chose to invest more into yourself and more into other opportunities and look at it from a different lens.
absolutely.
And so, you're having this conversation very similarly. It sounds so mirror to the conversation. I remember distinctly where I was standing in the bathroom of actually this house right here, telling my wife,
Yeah,
I'm like, I think I'm going to join this group,
yeah,
this real estate group. And it was at that time like the largest, I would argue, investment I've made into myself, other than my engineering
yeah,
degree.
exactly. Which was a
And
while ago.
so interesting.
Yeah.
So how long, once that first conversation happened to when you joined, how long did that take? Did it take any more conversations between you guys?
Well, so my husband likes to gamble. So I told him, I go, look, let's just pretend I put 10K on red and I lost. So I'm investing myself. Like, I'm learning something 100% brand new. Like, no one in my circle knows anything about real estate investing. Like, everyone owns their own primary
Wow.
home, but that's completely different.
Sure. Yeah.
So, of course, I need to spend money to learn about something new. It's education, right? Like, I spent all that money for college. Like, why can't I spend 10 grand, right? So he was totally supportive and I jumped into it. So I joined March of 2023. And of course, like everyone else, right? Like drink from a fire hose. I'm like, what the hell is all this information? Wholesaling.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, like I did 12 years of cold calling. I graduated from that. I am not going back to that.
Done.
Like I earned my way out of that, right? Like in my current job now, like I'm considered the closer in like real estate
There you
where
go.
I negotiate salaries and I negotiate like, hey, you joining this company. So I actually have my own sourcer, which is like the wholesaler to find the candidates for me. So,
Nice.
but yeah, so anyway, so I end up speaking to Chino Monte, I think that's his name. And
Yep.
he asks me
Yeah.
this
Chino.
very important question: do you have money or time? And I said, I've got money. And he's like, well, tell people. And
Hmm.
my first inclination was, that sounds douchey. Like, I'm not going to be like flaunting that I have money, right? Like, this is what we're taught, right? Like, you need to be, I don't know what the word is right now, but he's like, no, but like all these transactions require money. Let people know that you're a buyer. I'm like, oh, okay. So now I'm like getting heavily involved in our Facebook group.
Mhm.
I'm making goals to network with at least 5 wholesalers a week. So then they can bring me a property because my goal at the time was get a couple Airbnbs in Vegas so I have a free place to stay when I go party with my girlfriends. Like that's literally like my small little tiny goal. I was going to be happy and that's it. And I got to go to community camp last year, Kalispell, Montana, and that's where it was brought to my attention that, hey, like you're really good at networking. Like you just insert yourself into people's conversations. You're working the room, like you have all this energy and you're like just building rapport like instantly. And I was like, oh yeah, that's what I've been doing like my whole life. It's like breathing to me. It's not like a skill or like anything different to me. And they were like, you should raise capital. And that's where I actually got to meet Vina Jetty and spend a whole day with her. And, she's a multifamily investor and my mentor. And people in her community, she's teaching them, hey, you can skip single family. I can teach you how to buy 50 to 150 units. And I was like, okay, let's go, because I didn't really want to do that anyways. So ever since last September, I've been focusing on multifamily. I'm one of the leaders of Orange County JV, which is our own micro community here in Orange County. And that's where I found my business partners. And then, fast forward a few months, we started a fund in January. And now we're raising $8 million to get 2 assets within either North or South Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee, or Alabama, and then just keep it going until forever.
Okay, so that just went from 0 to 100, like real quick.
Yeah,
and that's so cool because it's so cool for so many different reasons, but I think that is the power of proximity to really putting yourself in the right room, right? And having somebody unpack your skill set and go, you need to do this.
Yes.
Like this is what you're way better suited at doing this and at this level. And not necessarily, not that it's a waste of time, because for other people, that's what they're well suited for. It's just, it fast tracks you to the direction that you need to go in, which I think is so fantastic. And then, again, like direct access to somebody like Vina, who has so many assets under management and has so much experience. So I'm curious, there's a difference between investing with a group of people that you trust to purchase multifamily assets, to manage them, operate them, and you're like a limited partner. So you're seeing like those quarterly distributions, or you're seeing a K1 at the end of the year, or whatever it is. And then there's a very big difference between being involved in that team.
Yes.
Did you feel like, yes, you're in the bucket of like, I can lend, but it seems to me like you really wanted to be more involved in that.
Yeah. So when I first got into Vina's group, that was my goal, right? Is to just be a capital raiser, because I do not have experience operating any type of multifamily or any real estate in general. And I was, one of the things that Vina teaches is starting up a fund of funds. So a fund of funds is a mini fund, right? Which is considered the LP stake into a general fund, which is, the general partnership. So that's what I was going to do, because, my professional network on LinkedIn is about 17,000 people, and they're all engineers or tech professionals. So, Landon, those guys make good money, right?
People?
Yeah, 17,000. That's my largest number. Yeah. So I know I've got the people around me. I live in Orange County, like Newport Beach is 15 minutes away, one of the most affluent areas in Orange County. So it's around me, right? So I know I could bring the money or find the money, but I had no clue how to, even try to even find a property. So that's where you said, like what you said, proximity, right? So me being one of the leaders for our community and like having a meetup every 2 weeks, my business partner, came to our meetup, and I was the only person there talking about multifamily. And so we stayed connected. I invited him to Vina's masterclass in October, and we essentially still dated each other for 3 months, right? Like, you got to make sure that you guys have the same values. Like, we had multiple family dinners where we didn't even talk about business. We just talked about like what we like to do and what we've done, because it is like a marriage, right? Like, business is a relationship. So we wanted to make sure that we were on the same page with all those types of things, because when shit hits the fan, if you don't have the same value system, right? Like, things could crumble pretty quickly. So, so that's where I found him, and him and his wife are experienced operators. So they've been doing real estate investing for 14 years. They've got several multifamily properties in Long Beach. So my other partner, his wife, she's a real estate agent, investor. She self-manages those properties herself. So that's what you need to do, is like, when they say find a team, find the gaps in your skill set, right? So I can bring the money, they know how to operate, and now we're good to go. And so we team up together and we leverage each other's experience. And then now we can tackle these multifamily properties together.
So crazy. So I mean, just listening to this story from where it began as it relates to
Yep.
the original backyard search of just simply trying to find a home,
Yep.
it led to you
Just one
getting
house in
involved.
Vegas, please.
Well, not, it was before that, it was
Yeah,
in her
I wanted a
backyard,
home. Yeah,
right?
a home for my family.
And then you end
Right.
up pushing further, right? So like there's this thing that's like this arrow, this cardinal direction that you're working toward, not knowing the end result. None of us know what that end result looks like. I mean, we know the inevitable, but like in general of our investing in our careers and business acquisitions, real estate and whatnot. But you really don't know along the way what that playbook really looks like because there is no playbook.
Right.
You're in your own journey in your own world. And so you join this group, this community that we're all three involved in with Pace Morby called Sub 2.
Yep.
And then you attend a meetup up in Kalispell, Montana, and network with the right people who pull out and extract the
Yes.
personality and the traits and the characteristics, your avatar really,
Yep.
and you kind of figure out who you are through this journey, through this process that puts you in the right place, such that then when you come back home, you have almost like a different skill set that you're now aware of and privy to, that you can go out almost like a gladiator and like try and find other people that are wanting to do similar things to you that almost fill the gaps. And so you each now are playing a role in something that originally you were just looking for a single family home that turned into something in Vegas as a fun little go away spot.
Yeah.
And now you're raising money for multifamily properties that you know nothing about.
Yeah.
And you're learning like, it's just wild how things unfold and how there is, like, it's just, there's no playbook and you put yourself in the right rooms. Daniela said it best. Like you get yourself in those right rooms around the right people that empower you, support you, push you, and almost like a counselor. Cause like they're looking at you and like, hey, you're really good at this, this, and this. You should push more into that. And you're like, okay, yeah. And so you go that route, and that's so cool.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I really appreciate being in these types of communities, especially the one that Pace has developed, is that they teach you to focus on your strengths, right? Our whole life is like improve your
Oh my
weaknesses,
gosh.
study more
Yeah.
math or study whatever, right? Like, but now it's like, okay, I can do what's comes to me so easily and build upon it and not have to worry about what I suck at and just delegate that to someone else. Like that makes so much more sense. Like makes so much
So
more
much more
sense.
sense. It's so much more sense. And even too, like I heard the same thing. I've heard Gary Vaynerchuk talk about that as well too, about, doubling down on your strengths. And even to the level of, I heard this, I don't know where I heard this, but it was all about, I know you're a mother and I'm a father. I have two under two right now. We are thriving. It is amazing. But,
Good for you.
about childhood and whatnot. And, about how you're growing up and you're trying to shore all these weaknesses for your children, and you have this, you have a kid that's like maybe proficient at soccer or proficient at golf, but they're not very good at some other skill set. Most parents would say, okay, let's get you a coach for that, a tutor for that, or whatever it may be. And this is really bucking the trend of like, no, let's get you a golf coach.
Right.
Let's double down on your strengths and take
Right.
that to the next level, because one, you enjoy it, you're really good at it. Let's push more effort into that area. And I just loved that change, because I got thrown into shoring up weaknesses.
Yeah.
So like I'm the master of nothing, but I'm like halfway decent at a lot of different things. Whereas I wish I would have went 10x on the things I was really good at back when I was a child. So it's super interesting to hear it from your perspective, looking back.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, is like, this day and age with technology and like information, like everything is on YouTube. Like I don't think I'm going to be pushing my
Mhm.
son to go to college. I mean, if he wants to be a doctor or a lawyer where like you required for the education and the license, but like spending,
Right.
I mean, and who knows how much college is going to be then, right? Like $500,000 on a general studies degree? Hell no. Like,
Oh my
no,
God.
I'm not going to spend that money. No way.
Yeah.
Or I'm not going to pull out a loan for that either, So, yeah.
Yeah.
That is such an interesting intersection, because I've gone and had that conversation with my husband so many times now, where I was the first to get a bachelor's in my family. I was the first to get a master's degree in my family. So it was a really big deal
Yeah.
for me to
Yep.
get these pieces of paper that they felt were going to give me the opportunities that I needed to, not necessarily break the cycle, but just to make it easier for my kids. And my husband is an electrician, but he's like the guy, he's the 1%. He's the guy that he's been a general foreman, which is the highest level since he was 27. And he's building Uber buildings. He's building all these places that all these tech companies are housed in. And I'm looking at him and his success and what he's been able to accomplish. And I swear, as soon as I spent about 8 months into sub 2, I was like, why did I go to college?
Right,
If I would have found this,
Same.
I was 19. I'd be a freaking millionaire by now, you know? And I'm looking at my kids and going, okay, it's my duty to teach, to promote this. And there's been so much emphasis that has been taken off of like that pressure of you have to get good grades, and you have to get the piece of paper, and you have to do this, and no.
Yeah.
Actually,
well, it's all coming from a good place too, though.
You have to just learn. It is, but it's also like, why don't we just work on being a really incredible, good human being that wants to do good things and be good to people around you, and then figure out what you love and like blow that up. Like, you know, and I think that just wasn't generationally what it was like when we were younger.
I mean, what I want to teach my son, the basic skills, is sales, because sales is everything. It's work, it's relationships, it's business, it's life. If you can't communicate, if you can't overcome an objection, right? Like you can't, that's literally life. Like fighting with your sister, fighting with your husband or wife, your mom or dad, you know? So that, and then like finances, right? Like I'm sure you guys, like that's what we've all learned in sub 2 is like, you don't just have to grind in your W-2 and put in your savings and put in your 401k and like hope for the best. Like that's one of the messages when I do my social media is that why work your whole life and hope that your 401k is going to support you? Like, what do you think the tax rate's going to be when you're 65? What do you think inflation's going to be? Even if I had $50 million, what if the tax rate is 50% and inflation is 25%? You have nothing, right? But real estate, it's always going to be there. You always need a place to live. We're all going to need to have to rent because no one can even afford a house now. I don't even have a primary home now because it's ridiculous, right? So investing in real estate and rentals, I mean, I don't see any other way.
I agree. And it's funny how, like, I look back on generationally, like my family, like again, very similar to Daniela, first to go to college, all of that. And, you know, the quintessential success was to get a degree, get an amazing engineering career. And my wife's a labor and delivery nurse. Like we made it, we did it, you know, and then even to buy a home, transparently was like, oh my gosh, in our family. And fast forward to today, I wish I would have not purchased our first primary home, and that would have been an investment property. Right. And then right now, as I sit here, 1 week from today, I'm moving out of this home right here. This is my wife's white picket fence, if you will.
Yep.
And we're turning it into a short midterm rental.
There you go.
And moving out of it, we will be homeless in the next 2 weeks completely, because we're going all in on the efforts of real estate investing and turning into rental properties and all of those things. And we're going to figure it out. But yeah, I completely agree with the sentiment of everyone needs a place to live. And yeah, spot on.
I mean, that's what I'm going to do. I mean, what I've been able to do so far is put money into funds, right? So at least I'm making my money that way. But I have actually no desire to buy a primary home anymore because, again, that was the old mindset of like, I got a college degree, I've got an amazing job, I bought a house, but who cares? Like now that I understand that you take your income and you put it into an income creating asset and then spend passive income, that's all I ever want to do now. Like I don't even care because I can rent for the rest of my life because that will be a write-off. It will be my home business. So why? Who cares if you own your own home? Like if that's what really makes you feel like accomplished, great. But my mindset of like generating wealth, that's no longer in my purview anymore, which is crazy to me.
Beautiful.
Yeah. It's such a unique perspective though. And I think that's like something that we all had to sort of go through when we started this journey of unpacking what was so generationally fed to us. And then going, that's what the whole trip was with PACE. And like when I went to my husband too, and I started, my dad's a long time super conservative investor. And I went to him with this and he was like, that guy's full of shit.
Right. Totally.
It took me, like I have spent probably a year now, just like shopping this with like brain, like workshopping this with my dad and going, okay, but then what about this? And he has an industrial building in San Francisco that has appreciated quintuple over the last 12 years. And I'm going, great. So how are you going to sell it?
Yep.
Why wouldn't you want to sell or buy it? And he goes, why would I ever do that? And so I start walking him through this, and I'm like, taxes for one. Two, you walk away, like ask for 500 cash down, do it creative the rest of the way. But the point is that we've both gone through an evolution of understanding that there are so many ways to crack the same nut. Yeah. And it all comes down to what you're passionate about, what your risk tolerance is, what your day-to-day life can support or handle, like active versus, do you have discretionary income?
Right.
Like that's another really big thing too, that I've talked with Landon about so proficiently and just consistently. And I continue to bring it up on this podcast, y'all, because there's so many new investors out there and we all want to invest, but that discretionary income is what keeps you and your family safe. That's like going from TK, I don't know what number one looks like, to I'm in the third grade, I'm reading, I'm cruising, and now I got Nancy Drew novels. Like you want to try and skip as much of the pain as you can. And by having like that income, you can, so it's so funny how you get into this world and you go, how did I not know?
Yeah.
How did I not know that this was like happening simultaneously at the same time?
Yeah, I think it's just unbelievable how rich people have gate kept, if that's the right tense there, all this information, but it makes sense now. Like the richest people on the planet own businesses and real estate.
Yep.
So,
I love that saying that Pace always, it's stamped in my brain of the proverbial they, muddy the water to make you think it's deep.
Right.
That's so great because it almost feels like it's giving myself grace in the sense of you can do this.
Exactly.
Is that it's achievable, it's attainable, it's possible. If you put yourself in the right rooms that Brenda's in, or in Vina, or in Pace, or whatever, like I'm so grateful that I live in, what's crazy is I live in Phoenix, Scottsdale, Arizona, where Pace lives. I've been fortunate enough to spend multiple days at multiple trips, 7 nights in a row with him on trips and being in the rooms. And I went literally to this mastermind with him in Temecula, California here 2, 3, 4 months ago, that it costs $100,000 a year to just be a part of this mastermind that happens one weekend of every year. And I'm sitting in a room full of Eddie Wilsons, who are billionaires that have done over 100 plus exits of businesses, and the Dan Fleischmans of the world. And it's just astonishing how you put yourself in the rooms and they connect you with the people that you need in your world to what you need to be doing. And it's cool to see you be a product of precisely that, to put you in a position that is maximizing your strengths and your fulfillment too. Like what you're doing, you're happy about doing and you enjoy it, and you probably don't see it as work.
No, I don't. And that's another thing that you don't realize, is that all these high-level people are congregating in these rooms trying to help each other to get even more successful and more rich, right? So I love that Pace, his whole go-giver, mentality is that he instills that in us. And that's why, like I mentioned Orange County JV, like now we're giving back to our community, right? Because there's so, what is it like? There's so much more for everyone, right? Like what's the saying, the slice of the pie saying? I forget it, whatever. But there's enough for everyone, right? So
like the whole idea, like a rising tide raises all boats kind of thing.
Yeah. So might as well like do it together and share the wealth, right? So
totally. I've always precisely that is. That's a mindset thing that I've had to overcome too by joining this group through everything. Is when I started out being I think psychologically an only child, having grown up where I did every high school project, right? I did every college engineering capstone and senior project and everything because I wanted it done the right way. So I would just do it myself, blah, blah, blah. That transcended into my career and into my investing and whatnot. And I got into this group and realized the value of partnerships, the value of joint ventures and exactly delegating your weaknesses and whatnot. And so 50%, like I love this. I always say this to my friends who are in the same mindset I used to be, is 50% of a watermelon is better than 100% of a grape.
Exactly.
And so me delegating a lot of the tasks, like right now, my partner's out there working and raising money. We're funding a $95,000 deal right now as we speak, that I'm grateful that I get to do this right here for us and what we're doing, that he's out there achieving and doing. And once I get off this, I'll be doing similar things. And then partnering on deals. I own multiple properties with other partners within the community that brought a different skill set, whether it's the boots on the ground experience operating sober living homes, or they're the person who brought the money to fund the deal. Every person has a value that they add to any deal that you're doing, and you get to do it with friends. It's so amazing.
Yeah, that's the best part, is that a lot of these people have become really close friends. I hang out with them with my family, and it's amazing. It really is amazing. It's very unique, and I love
Yeah.
that we're spreading the love,
Yep.
essentially.
So in terms of the multifamily, let's dive into that a little bit
So,
more. Go ahead. Sorry, Daniela.
no, go for it. Go for it.
No, so I was going to say I wanted to dive into the multifamily space a little bit here. Being that I have 10 properties. I'm living in the single family space.
Hmm.
I own multiple short-term rental properties, mid-term rental properties, a sober living home, some long-term rentals, a lot of different exit strategies with the single family space. Because like very similarly, like I have a small mindset and like my little stepping stones to get to things, where I always thought multifamily was this grandiose, like that's the next level, I'll eventually get there kind of space. So maybe you can unpack a little bit for someone like me or our audience here of like the multifamily space. You're talking about fund of funds and various things. And, I actually invested in the sub 2 fund myself. And so I'm a part of that, but, I don't really know to the integral level of what I'm investing in. So maybe you can dive into that a little bit further.
Yeah, so there's obviously many different ways. So
Right.
what our team has done is we've created a fund. So I'm the fund manager, or we are fund managers. We are the lead sponsors. We are the general partners. So we're the one that's running everything, right?
Got it.
And if you and Daniela wanted to invest with me or our fund, you'd be the limited partner. The limited partner is the capital partner. So you guys provide capital, but you do not have any say into what we do with the asset or whatnot, right? And our fund is a 506c fund. So what a lot of people don't know is that if you take money from people and give them a return on it, and they don't do anything, right? Because they're passive and they're making money off of your efforts, that's actually selling a security, right? So in order to not have to file with the SEC, the Security Exchange Commission, you have to file for an exemption. So we filed a 506c, which means we are raising from accredited investors. So the qualifications of accredited investor, there are two. So either you have a net worth of $1 million, excluding your primary home, or if you're a single person, you've been making 200K or more for the last 2 years, or a married couple, 300K or more for the last 2 years. So if you satisfy one of those requirements, it is under the impression that you are a sophisticated investor and you understand the risks of investing in real estate, right? This is not an FDIC insured savings account, right? Everything's a risk, right? Even putting your money in stocks is a risk, right? It can go up one day and can go down the next day. So with 506c funds, typically like the minimum investment is like 50 to 100K. And for our fund strategy, right now we're doing value add. So kind of like what most people are doing on the single family, it's like doing a flip, right? Buying a distressed or below market asset,
Mm-hmm.
rehabbing it, and then hopefully selling it for a profit, right? Oh, we lost Danielle.
We lost Daniela.
It's all good. So for us, like our buy box is 50 to 150 units, C plus B minus class, value add. Um, Ideally a vintage of like 1980 to
Okay.
1990 or younger. Yeah. And garden style or walk up style. So, meaning like no elevators, they've got like a garden in the middle or something like that. So, no high rises for us.
Got it.
And, our purchase price is going to be falling within, 10 to 20 million. So, again, if we're buying something that's in the 90s and it's never been rehabbed, right? It probably has brown cabinets, I don't even know, like crappy counters and whatnot. So we're going to want to do quartz counters, upgrade the appliances, all that fun stuff, right? The flooring,
Yep.
and then
Yep.
amenities wise, right? Like VIP trash, a dog park, covered parking, all those things, right? So all those things can increase the net operating income of the asset. So that's kind of, I guess, a gist. I don't know if I missed
Yeah.
anything, but
No, you
yeah.
nailed it. I guess so. Then, in terms of obviously you're not investing in your backyard. So where are these types of asset classes for you that you're searching? Are you particularly picking a specific market, or I guess how does the market research fall for you in terms of where you're looking?
Yeah, so the states that we're targeting right now is North and South Carolina,
Okay.
Atlanta, Tennessee, and Alabama, so Sun Belt.
Sunbelt.
So we utilize CoStar, which are commercial reports. Danielle, you know those. And
Such
these
a
are,
tool.
yeah. And these are markets that are experiencing growth, population growth. A lot of big companies are coming from the West Coast over there, building new campuses, and then is not saturated at the moment, right? So we're hoping to catch it early because I'm sure it's going to get saturated within the next 3 to 5
Right.
years. Yeah.
Okay. And so these asset classes, say you're you're searching for an $8 million property with value add opportunities. And so with that type of acquisition, in terms of how much is it, a 20, 25%, 30% down payment that you're trying to raise in terms of acquiring this, and then the rest of that is just bank financing to acquire the asset for a term length that you're just going to flip it in 3 to 5 years or whatever it may be?
Yeah. So we are actually targeting to be conservative. So it's probably going to be, honestly, depending on the asset, like a 35 to 50%
Got it.
down. Yeah.
Okay.
And that,
Wow, that's
yeah.
so cool though, because it's going to give you so much more flexibility.
Yeah, yeah. But of course, like, we are part of sub two, right? So if we can find seller finance, that'd be amazing. So like me and my partner were actually just in Huntsville last weekend, and we looked at a seller financing. I think it was 48 units, but it was 1974. So it was a little too old, but it did have multiple extra acreage for ground up construction. So we're still underwriting it, but those deals are out there, right? So seller finance, or ideally an assumable loan. So not sub
Hmm.
two, but actually assumable, which is through like Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac. Those are hard to find, but they're there. But yeah, and then if not that, traditional financing where we raise the equity capital and then some type of bridge debt. Yeah.
Got it.
That's so okay. So I'm thinking to myself, you're working. Are you guys direct with CoStar? Or are you working with brokers?
We have a broker connection who gives us CoStar. Yeah.
That's fantastic. So for anybody who doesn't understand what CoStar is, commercial real estate works so much different than residential real estate. In residential real estate, you have the MLS, and there are a lot more rules for residential agents in the residential marketplace, meaning they have to be listed on the MLS. They have to be taken off the MLS when they've been sold, all in a certain amount of period of time, or you're fined. So when you go onto the MLS, it really is a whole package picture of everything that's available on the market. Commercial is totally different. There are no rules in commercial around if the property has to be listed. If it's been sold, it has to be taken off of a specific marketplace at a specific time. So CoStar has been monopolizing that market for a long time as a MLS type of feature. But really, how you find those gems in commercial is relationships.
Yep.
And sometimes it's with brokers, sometimes it's with calling direct to sellers, which a lot of multifamily investors are doing right now. But having a tool like CoStar that can give you all that economic data is huge. So I'm like, one, that's so cool
Yeah.
that you have that access to. I was approached by somebody at a meetup, and it was a multifamily investor, and they had done everything themselves. I think they had like 8 smaller assets in the Bay Area, probably like 10 to 15 units each, right?
Yeah.
And I had said, hell yeah, I'm a commercial broker. That's so great. And he's like, well, I had mentioned how I'm helping another sub 2 student put together LOIs and things like that because the properties are represented by CBRE
Yep.
or Marcus Millichap or
Yep.
whatever it is. And it's hard to go in unrepresented
Yeah.
and be taken seriously,
Absolutely.
especially here where the asset classes are so expensive. And long story short, he was like, why would I hire you? Why do I need you? Which is so relative though.
Yeah.
Because if you're a pro in your space and this is all you do, I think that that's valid, that you may have a lot of similar information or know a lot of similar people than I do. But there is inherent value in working with a professional that even knows how to navigate these systems and processes. So I always think it's amazing when people are actually working with the people that this is what they do.
Yeah, well, like how Landon said about like muddying the waters, right? Commercial real estate and multifamily real estate, they have their own lingo, and they did that on purpose to filter you out if you know what the fuck you're talking about.
It's so
So
true.
I'm going to assume this guy probably still has a single family mindset and vocabulary, and to be honest, those brokers are not going to take him seriously, right? So it's to his benefit to have someone like you who is in the space and who's been doing that for a long time to give him a little extra level of credibility,
Right.
because the moment you start talking about like whatever single family term, they're going to be like, oh, this person doesn't know what they're talking about, right? So, and that's the truth, unfortunately.
Well, it comes down to it's like you said, I don't know how to operate a multifamily. I don't know how to operate a multifamily. I deal with completely different asset classes in commercial, but still, I mean, filling the gaps with things with a team,
Exactly.
right? That knows what they're doing,
Right.
so that you can actually do this successfully and you're not going to lose your ass or all the people that you capital rose from. Like it's going to work out. It's going to work out well.
Yeah.
So I'm curious how the conversation has changed with your husband from
Okay.
then
Yeah.
to now.
Yeah. Funny enough, so it was a really cute story. When me and my partner were out in, what state were we in? I think we were in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Okay,
I
yeah.
was FaceTiming with my husband, and then he wanted to speak to my partner, and they were just chatting, and I could overhear my husband saying like, yeah, I'm really proud of Brenda. Like, obviously she's smart and I knew she could do these things, but like, I'm really impressed that like she's gotten this far in this short period of time. So he's obviously my biggest supporter, and I couldn't get this far without him, on my side and behind my side type of thing. But he's really excited for us. He's not very involved in it, but once we get to a point where I can bring him in and find where his strengths make sense, that's that's
Yes.
that's my goal. So, but yeah, it's been amazing. It's been fun, and I've been trying to influence my close girlfriends, and like I have one girlfriend, like I'm trying to convince her to like start a online uh, fitness coaching business because she loves
Oh,
to
yeah.
do it. I'm like, just start filming yourself. Like it's super easy. So I'm trying to expand
Gosh.
everyone's mind around me that you don't need to be stuck on this W-2 hamster wheel for the rest of your life, right? Like honestly, I don't have faith in my 401k. I don't. Like I've
Yeah.
slowly, been transferring my money into my self-directed so I can invest in real estate.
So what is that like for you as far as, all your friends are, this was a huge thing for me, was like ego. It was really, really, really hard for me. Like this, 6 months ago, if you would have told me I'd be doing this with Landon, I would have laughed in your face. I would have said, there's no freaking way.
Yeah.
This, putting myself on social media, it's been really hard for me. For no good reason. That's what I find. That's what I'm like realizing now is, why have you been so freaking like this ego? Where did this come from? And how has it been talking to your girlfriends about this? Has it been like a slow thing? Are they like bought in, or have you felt like you've lost some friendships over this transition in your passions and in your life? I've always been so curious about that for other people.
Yeah, so I've got a tight group of girls that like have been my best friends for over the last 10 years. They're all my girlfriends from recruiting. We all used to work at the same agency together. So, we've all kind of grown up together. I mean, I'll be honest, there's a couple of them that are like super interested in what I do, always ask me questions. And the rest, again, are supportive, right? But they don't care about real estate. Um,
Right.
I do
I get
have
it.
one that is super risk averse. So, she'll make comments about like, oh, that doesn't seem easy and whatnot. And I just brush it away because if I
Yeah.
focus on the negativity, obviously I can't move forward.
No, yeah,
But what I do think is going to happen is once we get our first, asset under contract and they start seeing the fruits of my labor, which I'm always going to remind people, this shit does not happen overnight. Like
no,
I'm a year into sub two, but I'm only like 7 months into multifamily, right? And multifamily cycle is 5 to 7 years. So I'm not going to be seeing any big payout anytime soon. But
yeah,
once that hits, then it'll be exponential. So I'm in total like business building mode right now. But what's
yeah.
going to be so funny is that when that day comes, I know for a fact everyone around me is going to be like, "Damn, well, how did that happen?" And what the? And it's like, yo, it's
You're
been
like,
like three
I've been
years.
talking about these for
For
years.
3 years, right? Like this didn't happen yesterday, right? But they weren't paying attention. And then
Yeah,
everyone's gonna be
yeah,
up my ass, like, well, how did you do it? And I'm like, you were
right,
interested 3 years ago. Anyways,
right.
joking, but half
But
it's the
but
truth.
it's true though, because
True.
that's how people work. I
Right.
mean,
Exactly.
that's just like human nature, right? It's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing. It's
Yeah.
just how we are.
Yeah.
We want to see it,
Yeah.
and then when we're finally ready, it's like the train has left the station.
Yeah. Exactly.
You
Yeah.
know.
And now they're gonna have to
Okay,
try to catch up. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll help you as much as I can, but. But yeah, I
right.
just I just think it's gonna be so funny when that day comes.
So this is like my last kind of question for you, and it always goes back to like how.
Yeah.
And that's a lot. I think what a lot of people struggle with is what I struggled with when I first paid for that mentorship, and then was like drowned by information. And then I went through a period where I was low key like depressed because I was watching what I felt like were all these people that like,
Doing
again,
deals.
ego. Like
Yeah.
I'll admit it, ego. Like I could do what that dumbass is
Ego.
doing.
Yep.
Why am I? What's wrong with me?
Yeah.
Why can't I do this? And I went on several community Zooms, and I swear, like there was one where I started crying, which was so embarrassing, so bad. And I was just like, I don't understand how I'm supposed to get this done, like in my life and with my kids and my babies, and I'm running this business with my dad, and I'm already working 20 hours a day. Like I don't get it. And there was a kid that on there that was running that Zoom. He was younger than me, not married, has no children. Doesn't matter. But okay.
Right. Yeah. Different. It's different.
But different. And dude, this killed me. He looked at me and he went, your kid, he's like, if you really want to make this work, you're going to have to figure out how. And you need to stop complaining about it and just get up in the morning earlier, stay up late at night. And when you're sitting there feeling guilty about, whatever is going on with your family or your job, like your sons are watching you, they're watching you spill blood over this. And when you do start to produce, and when 10 years from now, when your kids go, my mom worked her ass off, like they're going to know what you went through. And then I really started crying, and I was so fucking
You're like,
so
oh,
mad.
I can feel it.
Yeah. And I was like, this kid is telling me this right now. Like, girl, get it together, but I want to know, like, super successful and demanding career in recruiting. You have a partner, you have a child, you're traveling a lot now to evaluate these properties yourself, which is a part of the game.
Yep.
You're traveling to go to conferences and to remain relevant and in people's faces and educated. And all this takes time. So how are you doing it?
So I think it goes back to, focusing on your strengths. So in my younger days, I know I'm way older than you guys. Like I used to be on MySpace.
Yeah.
And so I love doing
I
social
remember
media.
MySpace.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, like that guy that was yelling at you probably was born like, way after, right?
Doesn't know MySpace.
But and again, like I've been in sales my whole life. I love to travel. So like all these things are things I like to do already, right? So I think what's difficult is, someone who's not in sales and I don't know, they've been grinding at this crappy job and then they get into sub two and then like you said, you see all these people doing amazing things and they try to fit themselves into that person's life or path, but it's not genuine to them, right? So
Mm-hmm.
what's amazing about real estate investing is there's so many things you can do, right? Like if you're introverted and love numbers, then be a TC, right? But like I'm a capital raiser, I love talking to people, I could do it all day long, I love to travel. So it's not hard to try to fit those things into my day to day. But like that kid said, right? I was doing Zooms before my son woke up. I was doing Zooms at lunch, and then I was doing Zooms until midnight just to like learn all the modules, get on Pace's family Zooms, like fit it in when you can, right? But another aspect is, I am a first gen child of immigrants where, we lived paycheck to paycheck my whole life. We actually never owned a home at all. We every time the rent increased in our apartment, we had to move. So we moved a lot. Like people always thought, like, "Are you a army brat?" I'm like, "No, we just can't afford to live here anymore. We need to move."
Yeah.
So I, unfortunately and fortunately, have grown up with a scarcity mindset of like I need to always hustle. Like there's not enough money. But then what expanded my mind of the abundance mindset of like actually, if you can visualize it, like it can happen. And, if you spread that love and spread that education and everything, like the more you put out there, the more comes back to you. Right. So having the hardships has made me, but then the emotional and mental IQ of being able to learn and accept new things is what's like fueling my journey forward, So yeah, that's me personally.
I love
No,
it.
I mean,
That's great.
Yeah.
Landon's the same way. Landon, you get up every day at 3:30 in the morning, don't you?
Yep.
That's too early for me, but good for you.
Well,
Same.
I'm also in bed at 8:15. Like I'm asleep
Right.
like on the
Yeah.
couch like this, But I think for me, I've just shifted my priorities. I've shifted my values.
Right.
I've always had
Yep.
them, and all those little things. And there's a level of, and I'm sure you and I have, I'd be interested to look at like your day to day of like your operations. Like I'm very systematic in terms of my time blocks of what I'm doing on certain things and working toward. And a lot of that too, sadly enough, is also time blocking time with my family, time blocking time with just my wife and
Yep.
just my kids, and being intentional with that and maximizing it, because I'm a person that I'm all in on what I'm trying to achieve and accomplish. And so I have to remember why I'm doing this. And so I have to focus my efforts on really what I'm doing. And it's cool to see you, first gen, a female investor, achieving the things that you're doing at such an early part of your phase of your investing career and what you're learning and the fires of information. I mean, you joined 2 months after I did. I joined in January of 2023. So,
Yeah.
we're still in our infancy of terms of what we're learning and what we're doing. And it's cool to
Yes.
see the launch pad that you've came off of and what you're going for and what you're achieving as a professional, as a female, and all those things. That's beautiful. It's so cool to see. I admire that. It's cool to see someone like you who is achieving and accomplishing your dreams and goals, and having not really known you to a deeper level, admire you and knowing what you're doing and support you, knowing you're battling similar things likely that Daniela and myself are battling in the day to days,
Yep.
and balance and integration and all those little things. And it's cool to see how you manage that and what you're doing and still have tremendous success.
Yeah, I think what else I wanted to add is like make sure you're getting into it for the right reasons, right? Like I think
Mhm.
you had dropped off, right? This is not a overnight success, get rich quick scheme. So don't get into it because this takes a long, long time to build an investment, a real estate investing business. So, because there were just so many similar parallels in my current, career, the transition was very easy for me. So if you can find where your passion lies within it, then I would focus in that direction, but don't be blinded about like I'm going to be rich one day, I'm going to be a millionaire one day. That's the what is it
That's
like
a byproduct.
a
That's the
byproduct, right? Like
byproduct.
when you have to work out and diet, right? Of
Yep.
course you want
Yep.
to be skinny, but you should be doing it for your health, right?
Yep.
So you got to
Yep.
everything is mindset, dude. It's crazy. It really
It's so mindset. It is. It's so true. Like I've now, from a fitness standpoint too, I always say like getting in shape is simply a byproduct of all the discipline and the mental training I'm doing every day by waking up at 3:30 and going to the gym.
There you go.
I'm human. Guess what? I wake up at 3:30 and go, I don't want to get up today. But I
Yeah.
know it's mental training of showing up and
Yeah.
going to the gym. It's, it's not because I go to the mirror and look and go, okay, cool, I got to go. It's not that. It's like
Right.
the discipline every day, of going, and it's no different than every aspect of life.
Exactly.
And so it's, so.
Exactly.
Well, Brenda, thank you so much for spending some time with us and talking to us about your multifamily journey and just your story. And I'm really glad I got the opportunity to use this to get to know you better, because I really can't wait to meet you in person. We're all on that. I'm like, West Coast struggle bus, man.
Right. Yeah.
we all are looking in the Sun Belt, and it's really cool to see different people focusing on different things. And I can't wait to come down to SoCal one day. I want to hit up one of your OCJB meetings and just see all the cool people.
Let me know anytime.
Where can we find you? Where can the audience find you?
Yeah, so my main platform is Instagram, so Brenda Rose Invests, but I am also on Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, and YouTube. So
Love it.
Same handle everywhere. But yeah, I mean, thanks guys. I really appreciate it. And I do hope to meet you guys in person one day.
That's right. Community
Good
camp
stuff.
this year.
Thanks so
Yes,
much.
community camp, yes. Which weekend are you guys going?
There's multiple weekends?
Yes. So there's one in June and one in July, one in September. So I'm going in September.
There's one in September. Okay.
Yeah.
I may have to work some stuff. I don't know. I did not go to Squad Up because I'm 8 months pregnant. And I thank you. And I'm having the
baby. You might have a baby by then. That might be a problem.
I was like late. I was like July, not going to work.
Yeah.
But now that I know there's a September weekend, maybe I'll try and finish.
When your baby is like 2 weeks old, you're like, hey guys.
That's what I told Landon. I was like hiking in Montana, with this.
I love it.
That's the difference between ambition and reality, y'all.
Right.
Where it's like, I have to accept I am where I'm at.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's okay too.
So I actually take off here in 15 days. I own a house in Kalispell that I have as an Airbnb.
Wait, did you get that before?
No,
camp,
I bought it. I bought it in July of last year, sub 2.
Okay, that's awesome.
But that was right before community camp, wasn't it?
What?
That was before community camp had happened last year, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Really? Was it?
I think
did you not go last year?
No.
Oh, okay.
He didn't even know. He didn't even. He's like, I just bought this beautiful house in the middle of this, know.
Are you neighbors to Pace? Come on, let's be honest.
Yeah. Well, so I went up. I'm 4 or 5 minutes from his house. I was up there. So what's really funny? Here's a little tidbit. This is hilarious. Is bought the house and flew up there, got it all set up. Airbnb went live, and came back here. And who do you think my first booking was? Pace Morby.
That's so cool.
So he booked it.
So cool.
And then the next day, I get that booking come through my phone. He didn't text me or anything. The booking comes through, and then he texts me and he goes, "Hey, do you want to go to Montana for 4 or 5 days and help me find my second home?" So he booked the Airbnb.
Wait, but he didn't know it was yours?
No, he did. He did.
Okay.
He knew
Okay.
Yeah. And because I posted it within the group of hey, whatever.
Yeah.
And then so he books it. He's our first review. You can go on the page. It's quite funny.
So cool.
And we all went up there as myself, obviously Kevin or Pace. Kevin came up, and I think that was and Eric, camera guy, the video guy. And we went and looked at probably 7 or 8, $3+ million homes on lakes in Montana. We went shooting guns.
That's so cool.
We did 2 meetups and different things. It was such a great experience. And actually now I have 5 or 6 direct books from our community for that property on a lot of the days with Pace. That's awesome. And then Abraham Gray just booked it for the entire week of this week's community camp. So I'm going to go to community camp and have nowhere to stay. So I got to figure that out.
So in your own home.
Can't. So, but then now I need to look at the dates in September and see if I need to block it off or if you guys want to stay there,
Yeah, that'd be awesome. That'd be cool. Yeah.
That's so cool. It's so hard. I'm like, this is the hardest part about this era of my life. I want to go to all the things. I want to go to all, and it's time. It takes time. Yeah. And, that's why we're doing this. So it's so cool to meet you, and thanks again.
Yes. Thanks guys. I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Take care.